Hello out there. It's July 15th, 2021, and this is the Backdrop Weekly Development Meeting. We get together every week to talk about priorities and possibilities for Backdrop. We'll do some quick introductions. My name is Nate Lampton. I'm a quick sketch on the internet, and I am a core committer. Luke, could you introduce yourself, please?
I don't see why not. I'm Luke McCormick. I'm a marketing product management sort of technical guy usually in San Ramon, California, but currently in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And I'll just toss it over to Robert.
I'm Robert Lang, bug folder on the internet. I'm in Altadena, California. And I'll pass it to Justin.
Justin Christofferson in Denver, Colorado, and I just contribute to infrastructure when I can.
And Joseph, who just joined, are you able to give a quick introduction?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Hi, I'm Joseph Lett from Las Vegas, Nevada, although I am currently in Seattle, Washington. And I don't know, do backend development and help out where I can.
All right. Thank you, folks. So the structure of these meetings is that we solicit topics for discussion, and then we talk about them. We had a shortcoming this week that I did not post to the forum the link to the agenda, so we did not get any suggestions from the forum. I apologize for that. And so we have fewer things than normal to discuss. We'll go ahead and start running through here. Updates from the PMC. This isn't actually a PMC item. I guess maybe the PMC is also discussing it, but from my perspective, Jen and I have started transferring the trademark Backdrop CMS over to the Software Freedom Conservancy. They're our fiscal and legal sponsor. So that effectively is transferring the trademark from a personal legal responsibility to a community legal responsibility. So instead of it being a personal asset of myself and Jen, it's being moved into the community arbiter holder of the trademark. So the paperwork has begun on that. I'm only seeing the paperwork side of things and not the discussion side of things. So that's coming out of the PMC. So that's kind of exciting to get that done. We also just need to renew the trademark because it's been 5 or 6 years, and United States Patent Office requires that you renew your trademarks roughly that time period every 6 years. They're a little bit loose about it, but they've started sending us notices saying, hey, it's time to renew your trademark. Otherwise, it goes into a dormant status, and then other people can claim the same thing. So we're using the opportunity of we need to renew the trademark. We might as well transfer it at the same time. Let's see, contributed projects. We don't have any new contributed projects this week. We do have a lot of updates on the community side of things, however, that we completed Backdrop Live this past weekend, Friday and Saturday. There was a global event in which there 3 hours on, 3 hours off of presentations. Backdrop Live, this was the third time that we've hosted it, was another success, fairly well attended, I think in the 20s of people. Was good for revenue, collected a lot of donations. That was very much appreciated from all of our attendees. And for those that attended, I think that we delivered a lot of value. I know we got several new community members also who had never participated in Backdrop otherwise. And so I think it continues to show that conferences or this online format draws a different audience than our normal development discussions and these weekly meetings. So a big success all around. There have been a couple of requests for video recordings from Backdrop Live. However, the nature of the conference is such that the discussions are less formal and less presentation driven and more discussion format. And we also want to allow people to speak freely during those sessions to encourage discussion. So that means that for almost all sessions, there are no video recordings. Like we could have recorded them, but we didn't, specifically to allow people to be themselves and to discuss openly. There are a couple of sessions that were recorded. However, the What's New in Backdrop and the Backdrop Core Update, I know those two sessions were recorded. We have not published them. However, the events website, events.backdropcms.org, has the capability of storing videos. So we may publish them to YouTube and then reference them from the event site. So if you're looking for videos, unfortunately, you probably won't get video of what it is of a particular session. But next time, come to Backdrop Live, and then you can participate. Let's see. Let's move on to the progress report. Infrastructure-wise, we have been investigating using GitHub Actions for testing. Issue 4753 in the core queue. Indigo Zella has been spearheading an effort to use GitHub Actions to run our testing suite. She has found that separating or splitting the runs on GitHub Actions gets us comparable execution time. However, it needs to run 6 operations in parallel instead of just 2, like on ZenCI. But this continues to be very promising. ZenCI also seems to be fighting us that on these pull requests to use GitHub Actions, the tests are refusing to run. Just like, but with enough restarts, we're getting through it. And I know that that's a continuing problem on all pull requests, actually, that the tests just aren't running very consistently. So this continues to be a priority for us to get our community tooling up to snuff so that we can have a smoother process for pull requests as they come in. So that's coming along pretty well. Indigo Zella ran into a consistent failure inside of that issue. And so we're working out why that failure is occurring. Let's see, 4753 is the main issue. And then 5126 is the child issue for a failure that's happening every single time on GitHub Actions that doesn't happen on ZenCI. And we think it's just a software configuration difference that is actually pointing out an underlying bug in Backdrop that we didn't know about. So we're fixing that underlying bug, and then it should make the tests pass on GitHub Actions. Joseph, I saw you unmuted. Do you have anything to add there?
Yeah, just a quick comment. So I was able to replicate Indigo Zella's environment, and it appears basically what's happening is that mod proxy is intercepting requests that it thinks should be cached based on the default behavior of those 2 headers as far as the HTTP spec. And we're not accounting for that in our tests.
Yeah,
and,
perfect.
And I also saw, I put a comment on your pull request that we actually have to check if none match separately from if modified since, because the default behavior is that if none match overrides if modified since.
Got it. Okay, great. Yeah, so you've summed up the problem there, Joseph, that Backdrop basically isn't following the HTTP spec properly. When certain cache headers are passed in, Backdrop returns a different behavior than a proxy that does follow the HTTP spec. So effectively, what has surfaced is a legitimate bug in Backdrop's cache handling that we're not handling these conditional cache headers correctly. So the solution is that we need to make backdrop behave like the proxy, and then it doesn't matter if the proxy is in front of it or not, because you'll get the same result. So anyway, it's a nice find. I'm glad that we're solving it, and we should get better cacheability out of it as a nice bonus. Great.
An interesting tidbit is that these cache headers are actually wrong on purpose to work around a bug in Firefox that was filed 17 years ago and fixed 12 years ago.
I also saw that. Yeah, that our code comments are like, this intentionally does this thing because of this bug in Firefox. That was like, yeah, totally ancient. Yeah, which would also be nice if we could. I didn't deal with the code comments updates, but yeah, it wouldn't hurt if we went through and updated the code comments to just remove that section on like this ancient bug that no longer applies. Would also be nice if you know, the workarounds that we're doing. I think that there's other good reasons. I think that that particular code comment was around the way that we set e tags, an e tag header, which is used for caching. There's still good reasons why we should set the e tag the way that we're doing it right now. But that bug in Firefox is not one of them. Okay. Let's see. I don't have any items from 119.2 to discuss today. And the 1.20, the next minor version that will include new features, also doesn't have a lot of updates. We've got the media library dialog issue 3293 that continues to need some code review and some further testing. And that's kind of it. We already merged in bug folders layout code abstraction to make it so that node module and layout module are now decoupled from each other. Issue 5067. And we don't have a lot of other items slated for 1.20 as of yet. At Backdrop Live, I did outline some features that I think that we should prioritize, maybe not necessarily for 1.20, but in the future. And that included, it's going to be hard for me to remember off the top of my head, but I know automatic updates was in there, telemetry. Let me look at the survey site and that'll jog my memory. Reference module. And oh, and recipes. That was it. Yeah. That recipe issue, 3763. I'm sorry, which actually links over to a bug issue, 3224. The module config is not synced on install, has a pull request that very effectively solves the main problem, but we need test coverage for it. That's the big holdup on that issue. So out of anything that we could deliver for 1.20, this seems like it's a very obvious candidate. It's a very small fix, a substantial increase in the capabilities it grants us, and it is only blocked on test writing. So issue 3224, if you have some resources and experience with writing tests, that would be a great thing to put some time into. I'm going to wrap back around to telemetry because that's an initiative that is potentially across multiple releases. The telemetry issue has been moving forward quite a lot in the past week. So the core issue is issue 285, and we have new pull requests up that include changes to the project module and to the core module that would be bundled with Backdrop. So the core module is called simply Telemetry. And then there's the module that would run on the server side on backdropcms.org called Project Telemetry, as it's integrated with Project module. And so the new changes that we have ready are mostly on the server side that we can now configure per project, like Backdrop Core as a project on backdropcms.org, whether or not telemetry is allowed to be collected for that project, and then what keys are specifically allowed to be stored on backdropcms.org. That includes things like the PHP version, MySQL version, server OS, and then other things as we start collecting them will specifically allow certain keys to be stored on backdropcms.org, and then that data is allowed. That's to prevent the future problem of if we start allowing telemetry for contributed modules, that we'll need to specifically audit what data contributed modules are collecting, because we have a legal responsibility and a privacy responsibility to not store personal information on backdropcms.org. So we can't just allow any contrib module to collect any statistic they want, because we need to ensure that it's not storing personal information. So as we roll out telemetry in the future to contributed modules, we'll need to set up a process for, I would like to collect telemetry data on backdropcms.org, and then we check the module, and then we specifically allow that data on a per project level to be collected and reported on backdropcms.org. I'll show my screen real quick actually to demonstrate this. This one. So this is just the screenshot of what this looks like. So this is on the Backdrop project node on backdropcms.org once we add it. So under edit, there's now a new tab here for telemetry that allows you to configure what data gets stored on the server. So this is an example with PHP version, MySQL, and server OS. It also gives us the opportunity to provide a human readable label rather than these machine ones. And then we also need to specify when this data is collected, how should it be aggregated and displayed to users on the front end. And so in the case of PHP version, we're collecting the full PHP version string from every installation. But when we display it, we want to aggregate those into a larger number. So all PHP 7.4 should be considered one collection, and all of PHP 7.2, whether it's 7.2.10 or 11 or 12 or whatever, that should all be rounded into the nearest like one decimal slot rather than including the full information. So this functionality serves multiple purposes. That not only does it filter what data gets stored on backdropcms.org, but then it tells backdropcms.org when you're displaying this data, how it should be aggregated. So that's coming along really well. The next steps here is that we need additional testing. We need a technical review of all of the code. There's 2 pull requests that BW Panda linked out to here. We need to probably enable the telemetry module in the standard profile, probably with a checkbox that says, do you want to collect information? And then presentation wise, like this could happen afterwards, add some better display of this information, like probably in a chart format rather than in a table format. The most obvious candidate for these initial ones would be something like a pie chart, because these all add up to 100% currently. But that's all just icing on the cake. Functionality wise, this is really coming along to the point that we could actually start experimenting with it on backdropcms.org and on perhaps the 1.x branch of Backdrop itself. But we still have some more code review, more testing to be done. So that actually has been coming along very nicely. So I hope that we'll continue to get some more feedback on that. and we'll see if we can start moving that into the core repository. That's really all I've got for today. There's one last topic that I don't want to exclude again, and that is that it was raised 2 meetings ago. I think BW Panda filed an issue about discussing the purpose of these meetings, not the format, because we've been doing a lot of details about the format, but the actual purpose, like what is the audience for this meeting? What is it that we should be spending our time doing while we're here? And I haven't had time to prepare additional thoughts on that topic. Let me find the issue where Peter has discussed it a little bit, but if you folks present have any thoughts about purpose of the meeting, I'd love to hear them. The backdrop issue, it's under the backdrop ops repository / backdrop community, issue number 6. So here's a better summary. So so Peter says, what is the purpose of the weekly dev meeting? Some thoughts that come to mind: give the wider community an update on how backdrop development is progressing, solve problems, unblock issues, review pull requests, etc. Decide where effort should be focused for upcoming bug and minor releases. Yeah, which I would agree. Like, that's what we do, I hope. Like, that's my understanding of this meeting as well. But like I said, I'm not totally prepared to cover this because I haven't read the full issue. So I don't want to wing it all and not give it the time and credit that it deserves. So potentially, if you guys don't have anything else, well, Luke, do you have anything you want to add?
Nope.
Okay.
I was just trying to look up and see it. It's such a it's such a Zen-like topic. Like, why are we here?
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Agreed. So I'm just going to reference that issue, backdrop ops / backdrop community, issue number 6.
I was actually looking for it, surfing for it, and the link was right there. So that was the easy way to solve that.
Yeah, I put it into the Zoom chat. I'll put it in the agenda as well. But yeah, I'm not prepared to discuss that yet, and so I think that I need to read the full issue before I actually provide any thoughts and feedback on it. Might also be good. I know some of our community members, Jen and Tim, for example, aren't able to be at this meeting today because they're participating in an event, the Open Source Day event. So it would also be good to have their presence to discuss. So with that, I think we'll call it a meeting. Nice and short. I cancel that. Robert, you would like to add something?
I'd like to ask, I realize I should have raised it at the beginning, but just a question of the status of the backdrop.org domain name and what's happening with that. Maybe.
It's a great question, and one that I would like information on as well. I'm not fully in touch with how the PMC is progressing with that. But last I checked, it stays kind of where we haven't moved since the last update, which was we were waiting for the 90-day, 30-day waiting period before the domain could be transferred a second time, because it was just transferred into the ownership of why can't I remember? I should definitely remember this.
Alan,
thank you. It's transferred into Alan's ownership, but then we want to transfer it a second time, and there was a waiting period. So yeah, Alan Mel's So Alan is still, as far as I know, like willing to transfer the domain name as soon as we ask for it. But the thing is that we haven't gone back and said, hey, the waiting period is over. Can we transfer this domain name into our ownership? So that's where we are. Alan is still the owner of backdrop.org. He's still willing to transfer it. We just haven't scheduled the time to do it, because it is the sort of thing that we probably need to meet up real time and do the whole release the lock, transfer the thing, accept the lock, and then go through all of the process all in one fell swoop. So I don't think that that'll be a long process, but then once it's in the ownership of the Backdrop community under Namecheap, where all of our other domain names are, then we still have the discussion about what are we actually going to do with the domain. And I think that that's still in the PMC court for making that decision.
Thank you.
So yeah, no update, basically. That's just the current status. I am looking forward to that, though. I would like that. I know that it's like a slip almost every time we refer to the website. We actually say backdrop.org, and right now it's still backdropcms.org. There's a nice redirect now. If you type backdrop.org, it redirects to backdropcms.org. But I hope, my personal hope is that we'll be able to use that in the future.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. Well, thank you, folks, for participating in today's meeting. Thank you, everyone out there, for watching.